Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're gonna be reacting to
Lithuania during the First World War.
Whenever we think of the First World War, most people think about the big players. But what about smaller nations? What about, for example, Lithuania? What happened with the Lithuanians during World War I? What battles did take place on Lithuanian soil? That is what you're going to learn. Because in this video, we're going to talk about Lithuania during the First World War.
Yes. I don't know what happened.
World War I was one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. Over the course of 4 years, more than 9 million soldiers and 7 million civilians lost their lives, and the war led to the collapse of several powerful empires. The Russian, German, Austro-Hungarian, and Ottoman empires disintegrated, triggering significant political changes worldwide. The spark for the conflict was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, on the 28th of June 1914 by a Bosnian Serb. This event escalated tensions between Austro-Hungary and Serbia, and when Serbia rejected Austria's ultimatum, war became inevitable. At the time, Europe's major powers were bound by alliances, promising mutual defense in case of attack. Russia, supporting Serbia, mobilized its forces, prompting France to offer assistance. Meanwhile, Germany moved to support Austro-Hungary, following a pre-existing plan to quickly defeat France before turning east to engage Russia. When Germany invaded neutral Belgium, Britain declared war to aid France, preventing a repeat of Germany's swift victory in the Franco-Prussian War of 1871. Russia's rapid mobilization expanded the conflict. On the Eastern Front, many Lithuanians found themselves on opposing sides, fighting for either the German or Russian armies. The United States eventually joined the war, with around 20 to 30,000 Lithuanian immigrants serving with distinction in British and Canadian forces. On August 17, 1914, as Germany invaded France, Russia launched a full-scale offensive into East Prussia from Lithuania. The Russian forces quickly overran the German border and won a decisive victory at the Battle of Gumbinnen on August 20th, forcing the German army to retreat. As the Germans withdrew, they were accompanied by thousands of German and Lithuanian civilians fleeing the Russian advance. German Field Marshal Paul von Hindenburg led a successful counterattack.
I thought the video would focus a little more on Lithuania though. Yeah, this is just basically describing World War I and mentioning Lithuania in every fifth sentence.
Yeah.
I thought it would have more like about the impact on Lithuania during the war. Like the people, what was happening within the country, not that there were Lithuanian soldiers fighting.
Between August 26th and August 30th. The Germans called this the Second Battle of Tannenberg, though it took place about 20 miles west of the original 1410 battlefield. The name was likely chosen to contrast with the 1410 defeat of the Teutonic Knights by Lithuanians and Poles at the Battle of Jalgiris, also known as Tannenberg or Grunwald. The 1914 battle devastated the Russian army near the Masurian Lakes. Meanwhile, Austria's advance into southern Poland forced the Russians to withdraw from Galicia. By winter's onset, the first year of fighting on the Eastern Front concluded with the Germans holding a line along the East Prussian-Russian border and the Russians entrenched from the Baltics to the Galician mountains. In the west, Germany failed to defeat France, leading to a deadlock on the Western Front with progress measured in mere yards. As a result, Germany shifted many of its forces and resources to the more dynamic Eastern Front. By early 1915, Germany and Austria were preparing a major invasion of Russia. In April, the Germans launched an offensive from East Prussia into Lithuania as a diversion for their main thrust into Poland and Galicia. Among the advancing German forces were many ethnic Lithuanians from East Prussia. As Russia responded to this threat in the north, Germany's main offensive began on May 1st, targeting Warsaw. Despite a fierce Russian defense, the Germans broke through the Gaglis-Tarnów fortifications, forcing a retreat by June 17th. Pursuing the Russians, the Germans captured Fort Ivangorod, clearing the way to Warsaw, which fell on August 5th, ending a century of Russian.
There were Lithuanians on both sides.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. That's basically the whole idea of the video, I guess, that the Lithuanians fighting each other.
Occupation. As Russian forces faltered in the south, the Germans renewed their assault on Kaunas, Kovno, and Vilno from the north. After an 11-day battle, the heavily fortified city of Kaunas, a crucial part of the Russian defense, fell on August 19th, 1915. Shortly after, Brest-Litovsk fell on August 25th, followed by Grodno on September 2nd. Although the Russians defended Vilnius for 9 more days, the city fell on September 19th, effectively liberating the former Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth from Russian control. Many Lithuanians fighting for the Russian army perished in these attempts to hold the region. As the Germans pushed the Russians back into Courland, the offensive was halted on September 26th.
So they probably didn't identify anymore.
What do you mean?
Lithuania, if you know, were able to fight against Lithuanians.
Well, they were fighting against Germans, right? The fact that there were Lithuanians fighting for Germany has nothing to do with anything, really. Both sides were just they were following orders. It wasn't like Lithuania, oh, let me kill this Lithuanian. It wasn't like that. It was just shoot at the other side. Guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna shoot at the other side. It's like either shoot or be shot. So, like, cause if you don't shoot, they're gonna kill you. So,
stabilize a line along the Daugava River. Although Russia attempted a counterattack in 1916 near Vilnius, it was quickly repelled, and modern-day Lithuania remained under German occupation for the rest of the war. The war brought immense suffering to both soldiers and civilians. Thousands of Lithuanians fled their homes as the feared German Huns advanced, facing severe hardships wherever they went. Disease was rampant, causing far more deaths than combat.
Were they Lithuanians?
who?
The pictures of the people that they showed.
I would think so.
Epidemics of cholera and dysentery ravaged both soldiers and civilians and destroyed the pre-war society. Many farms were abandoned or destroyed, forcing people to live in primitive conditions in forests or overcrowded villages, which struggled with sanitation. Large sections of Lithuania's forests were cleared for military purposes.
At
Many
one point
women
in Lithuania were the villages quite large and they shrunk in size? Or would you say if you go to the villages today, it's just empty, but the space still exists in a large span?
Well, the idea of a village essentially is just a lot of land and houses are spread out, like each house one from another is like a quarter mile next to the next house. So
Do they still have like proper villages? Like the villages
like
are still
that,
there?
what I just described?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still there, but the cities are expanding. So as those villages, kind of more houses are being built. So, that quarter mile is now going to 100 meters in between houses,
Do they
which
pay the
eventually
people for taking the land, or like what did they do?
yeah, people sell the land, yeah, and they, so, it's gentrifying as everywhere else in the world, but I think there's still villages, yeah. There's still a lot of land.
turned to the oldest job in the world for survival, and venereal diseases spread wildly. The lack of medical knowledge and treatment worsened the suffering of both troops and civilians. As their homeland suffered, Lithuanian Americans launched a major fundraising campaign to provide aid. Money, food, and clothing were collected from Lithuanian communities across the United States. Patriotic rallies supported the American war effort and called for Lithuania's independence.
Wow.
During the war, Germany set up a military government known as Ober-Ost to control occupied territories, including Lithuania, Latvia, and the Białystok-Grodno region. The German administration governed these areas with strict control over all aspects of life. The region was subdivided into smaller districts, and people's movements were restricted, often preventing them from reaching schools, churches, and markets. The resulting economic damage disrupted commerce and devastated
Your great
farmers.
grandmother was there during this time?
No, my great grandfather served in the Second World War.
Oh.
My great grandfather was born in 1918, so when the war this ended, and my grandma was born in, I don't remember the year, in the 20s, I think, 29 or something.
Incomes. Despite German attempts to win over the local populations, many of their efforts backfired. For instance, the replacement of ethnic teachers with Germans and the enforcement of German language instruction alienated the local population, hindering their integration into German society. By 1916,
There is definitely much more Russian influence in Lithuania, but we have some German foods, so there's a little German influence as well. Because when we do like the German food reactions, like certain foods, we eat the same foods.
Fighting in Lithuania had reached a stalemate, but the war in Europe raged on for 2 more years. Despite heavy losses on both lives and land, Tsar Nicholas II insisted Russia honor its alliance commitments, but his efforts to push the Germans out of Eastern Europe only led to more defeats. The Russian army grew increasingly demoralized, and on March 12, 1917, the Tsar's own guard mutinied, joining protesters attacking his palace. Faced with widespread unrest, Nicholas II was forced to abdicate. Alexander Kerensky's civilian government took power but failed to grasp the situation and continued fighting against the Germans. After another failed offensive, the Russian army disintegrated. Amid the chaos, the Communist Party seized power and signed a peace treaty with Germany on March 3rd, 1918. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk forced Russia to give up all its territories west of Ukraine. This allowed Germany to shift many of its eastern forces to the Western Front. Although the treaty ended Russian-German fighting, it sparked a civil war between the Red armies, who wanted to preserve communist rule, and the White armies. As the Russian army collapsed,
With
several
this
nationalities
history,
within
what do people of Lithuania think?
What do you mean?
Like, you know how we asked, there's videos that ask the questions to like Serbia and Croats, like how do they feel about each other?
So what do Lithuanians feel of Russians?
Yeah, and Germans.
Well, in terms of Russians, there's definitely no love lost. Germans, I don't think there's any bad sentiments against Germans. I probably
But
too long ago.
Yeah,
Nobody was alive at that
I
point.
would have thought there would be some issues and complications with Germany.
Nobody was alive at this point. Everybody alive at that point is dead by now. So nobody lived through that. No.
So you're detached from it pretty much.
Yes. Now with Russia, that shit is recent, 30 years ago. People remember still. So, and they're doing shit now with Ukraine too. So it's kind of a threat.
Scary.
Yeah. So there's definitely the feelings is there, but with Germany, yeah, never.
Because
There was never a negative sentiment towards Germany.
They teach German in Lithuania too.
Yeah, they do. You can pick either Russian or German as a third language.
In German-occupied areas formed their own nation-states. The Germans, hoping to turn these movements to their advantage, allowed local governments to form, expecting that these newly formed states would choose to join Germany. When the Germans established a state council in Poland, Lithuanian patriots sought independence to avoid being annexed by Poland. On September 18, 1917, a national council was formed in Vilnius, chaired by Jonas Basanavičius, which surprised the Germans by demanding full independence. On December 11th, they presented a document to the Germans declaring the restoration of Lithuania. This was followed by a manifesto on February 16, 1918, officially proclaiming an independent Lithuanian state. Although they still occupied Lithuania, the Germans did not act against this declaration, hoping Lithuania might form a kingdom allied with Germany, similar to Prussia and Saxony. Kaiser Wilhelm II even suggested one of his sons for the Lithuanian throne. The Lithuanians, however, sought to counter this by offering the Lithuanian crown to Wilhelm Karl Herzog von Urach, a Catholic prince from Württemberg. On July 11, 1918, von Urach was officially elected king and intended to rule as Mindaugas II, even beginning to learn Lithuanian. However, German authorities invalidated the election, and with Germany's impending defeat, von Urach never took the throne. The Lithuanians reversed their decision on November 2, 1918, and the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk was nullified when Germany signed the armistice with the Allies on November 11, 1918. As German forces withdrew from the east, Lithuania formed its own army on November 23, 1918. Lithuania found itself in different wars of independence against the Reds, against the Whites, and against the Poles. Click here to learn more about the Lithuanian wars of independence.
The Reds, the Whites, and the Poles.
Yeah.
Huh?
I don't really. The Reds is Russia communist. The Whites, I don't really know exactly who the Whites are, but I also think it's Russians, just not the communists. Whoever was fighting communist Russians. And the Poles, well, that's Polish.
Oh, wow. Can I see the comments, please? But still, many years will have to pass before Lithuania was truly independent.
1991.
Yeah. In the meantime, they were under, like,
Russia for the most part after that. My great-grandfather fought in the World War II.
That's you guys can be related.
Okay. I received a couple other Frank received a couple otherwise deadly wounds, but managed to recover and lived into the 90s. If I ever get
your great grandfather lived to when?
2008, I think.
Oh, that's a long time.
My great grandfather. Oh, I read that. If I ever get to Poland with my job, I really want to visit Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia. Fascinating stuff. Thank you.
You know, when I'm on TikTok and they even mention Lithuania, all the comments, Lithuania mentioned, roar! Okay. Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. And as always, share as much kindness as possible. Bye, guys.